Okay, let's start. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the public watching on YouTube, councillors, to this evening's Development Management Committee meeting. If we move straight to the agenda, we have one apology and one substitution, I understand, Hannah.
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Sue Livings and substitution from Councillor Simon Carter.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest, councillors? Councillor Danvers.
Non-pecuniary interest in item 11, please.
Councillor Carter.
I have a ward interest in item 10. I also have an interest in item 9, although it's not in my ward. I think almost everyone who's made a comment comes from my ward. There is an underlying campaign against the bus gate itself, but in terms of this application, I've been neutral in as much as if this one fails, then there is existing planning consent to go ahead with it. But this is an improvement.
Thank you very much, Councillor Garnett.
Yeah, items 8, 9 and 10, both as a ward councillor, and they're in my division for Essex County Council.
Thank you very much.
Non-pecuniary.
Thank you. Moving on.
I've also got one,
Oh,
Chair.
sorry, Councillor Clark, I didn't see your hand up.
Yeah, non-pecuniary interest in the last item.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the minutes which appear in the supplementary agenda. Are they agreed?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any matters arising from those?
No.
We have no written questions, so the procedure that we'll use this evening is as follows. First of all, the planning officer will present the report. That will then be followed by comments which would have been invited to the governance support unit at least 24 hours in advance. These can be either over Zoom or in a written form, and there are a maximum of 3 for an application, a maximum of 3 against an application, plus following that the agent or applicant will be invited to speak. All speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Following that, councillors will have questions and clarifications of officers and potentially the developer, and then we'll finish with responses to councillors and then debates and a vote on each item. So if we move to item 7, which is the application part of Terminus Street car park and land south of that, which is being presented by Patricia.
Thank you, Chair. The proposal is for a mixed-use scheme to the south of the Terminus House car park and including part of the car park. It would provide 150 residential units, and it would be part 9, part 10 and part 11 stories. The proposal would also include a reconfiguration of the existing car park and removal of the southern entrance into the Terminus House car park. And it would also include public realm improvements. Alex, could I have the next slide? Councillors will know where this is located. However, it is to the west of Villese Avenue on the eastern side of the town centre, and it includes an area which is used quite heavily by pedestrian traffic, which is from the Harlow College through to the town centre and the shops. I will just apologise to the councillors. All the rest of the slides are located so that the east of the site is where we might normally expect to the north at the top of the page, but all of the rest of the slides take that into consideration. The slide, as you can see here, incorporates that access to the south between the college and the main part of the town centre. You can also see to the western side, which is to the bottom left hand of this slide, is the bus station area, and its large skirt. And also, as part of the application site, it goes beyond where they would be built form through into the car park area to the north. Thank you, Alex. The proposal involves demolition of part of the car park to provide the building space. That would result in a reduction in the number of parking spaces available to the general public from the current 753 to 545. That would be the retained public car park, and that would provide 114 parking spaces. The demolition actually covers the three floors of the existing car park to the southern end. I'm just showing the ground floor for the purposes of the extent here. This slide shows the general extent of the ground floor of the proposal. If you look to the southern side, which is to the right of the screen, you'll see the entrances from the new public realm into the building for all of the residential blocks, and also you can see the cycle storage, and in the middle of the screen motorbike spaces, and also the proposed gym in the lighter yellow, and the darker yellow is the proposed commercial uses. This is a typical upper floor element. This actually shows the orientation of the block, the L shape of the block, which would have the section at the top of the page would be onto Vallese Avenue, and to the right of the page that would be south onto the new public realm. This is the roof plan, just to show you in part that they're proposing some measures to reduce the carbon CO2 emissions for the site. And also you can see part of the podium level, which if we move on to the next slide, you can see that a large outdoor area will be provided at podium level for residents of the block, which would be separated into various areas for different age groups and also for outdoor exercise and activities. This is the gap between the Holiday Inn and the proposed new building, which would provide a service access through, which would need a new exit into where the taxi rank currently is, and it would also provide a cycle path to the south and pedestrian access to the north, close to the residential units and the commercial units. The next series of slides shows the proposal from this one is Vallese Avenue. This one shows to the left side of the screen, that is Terminus House itself, and this proposal, as you can see, there is a gap between the buildings when viewed from the western side, which is the station area, the bus station area, and you can see that the building to the south, or the part of the building to the south, is slightly higher than the other part of the building here. Commercial use is proposed to face onto the bus station area at the ground floor level. That's shown on this slide as well. This is a view that probably won't be seen very regularly. However, it's the view from the north, which shows Terminus House still maintaining its overall height above the proposed building, and the building itself in the background. It also shows the car parking levels below both buildings. This is the view from the south. So again, you won't be able to see this in its entirety from a pedestrian point of view, because of the existing Holiday Inn to the south, but you will get views and glimpses of this part of the building from Vallese Avenue and also from the west. On the ground floor, you can see the entrances into the residential, but also the bin and servicing areas, which the servicing road will provide access to. The developers have considered what sort of materials and how the elevations may work. This is an example of the materials that they are proposing, and it also shows the balconies on part of the building. This is a partly aerial view and an aerial view of the proposed public realm, which is to be put in instead of the existing arrangements. The building itself would come closer to the side elevation of or rear elevation of the Holiday Inn. However, it's proposed that it would be provided with high quality landscaping and hard landscaping, including the possibility of some more statues in line with our own policy for statues within the town centre. This is another view showing that the cycle area would be separated out. At the moment, the pedestrian and cycle route runs along the south side. That would be purely for the cycles on the southern side, and to the north would be the commercial uses and pedestrian access into the town centre. This slide shows that the proposed arrangements for the affordable housing would be that they would be on the first and second floors of the building. There would be a mix of affordable housing in terms of rented, affordable rent, but the purple would be rented, and the green items would be shared ownership, immediate housing types, affordable housing types. The yellow shown here is private. It doesn't quite match up with the orange on there. I apologise. But the other floors would all be private housing. We have referred to the fact that wheelchair-enabled units would be provided. This is building regulations M3. All the other units would meet the lower level, which is that they would be capable of being adapted, which is the M2 of the building regulations. As you can see, they are located so that they are above or below each other, but they are otherwise of different sizes. There are 3-bed and 1-bedroom units being provided for wheelchair use. This is a picture which will be obviously recognisable to all the councillors. This is the Terminus House building and the large car park, which on this side is 3 stories. And just looking a little bit further north, you can see the wide apron of the bus station, and on the left-hand side of this picture, the buses stopped at the station itself. This is a view between the south of the car park and the Holiday Inn. At the moment, this shows the car park access with the 2-way access into the building looking towards Harlow College. I have to thank Google for this one. This is a longer distance view of Harlow College and the Hydes looking towards the town centre and the landmark that is the Terminus House building. Again, this is a Google image with Terminus House, unfortunately slightly behind the tree, but showing the wide skirt of the car park when viewed from slightly to the north of the application site, so that I don't know if Alex put a pointer on it, but to the left of the Terminus House, the new building would fill that space. Thank you, Alex. From views from the south, the Holiday Inn and Terminus House, there is a significant gap between the two buildings, which is filled by the car park at the moment. However, the proposed building would be slightly further south than the existing car park, but there would be retained a gap between the two buildings, and also between the building and Terminus House. This is a fairly close-up view of the existing look of the access through to the town centre, with the two runways into the car park. There is a small area of green space at the end of that. There would be, if this goes through to the town centre via the back of Boots and Card Factory, if you recognise those, councillors, with the pedestrian stroke cycle park path to the left-hand side of the picture. Again, this is looking across from the west at the gap that exists between the Holiday Inn building and the car park, just showing the wide skirt at the bottom of the, sorry, Alex, show the wide skirt at the bottom of the bus station itself. And the next picture just confirms the overall size and wide gap between the Holiday Inn and the car park at the moment. I think we've probably had enough photos, but this actually shows the entrance that would be removed from the car park. And the other landscaped area to the eastern side of the car park there, which would be removed and replaced with the new public realm. This was, they're proposing to include a change to this area, certainly to the front here. Other works would require a legal agreement with the Highways Authority to provide access through both at this side of the site coming off the Leasy Avenue, and also at the other side to provide access into the taxi rank area. There are just a couple of CGIs at the end of this. This one is from the design and access statement, and it shows people crossing in front of the building and the commercial uses on the ground floor. Also the balconies that are being provided, which would provide a level of outdoor space for the occupiers of the proposed building, together with the podium as I've shown on the previous slides. And this provides a detail of the proposed building in the context of the bus station, or at least from the bus station, looking at that between the two buildings that are already on site, the Holiday Inn and Terminus House. Thank you, Alex. Just to draw councillors' attention, there is an update sheet which includes some additional conditions. It also confirms that the amount of affordable housing is actually 7.4%, and I apologise for the error that crept into the report. There was an indication by the applicants that they felt that the affordable housing should be 7.79%, but that was based on habitable rooms, and we don't use that as a particular measure for affordable housing. Councillors will be aware that in this case we have looked at the planning balance, and whilst there is no further contribution of affordable housing, all contributions is due to viability assessment, and on balance there is an element of the premium being lost by the applicants in order to provide the affordable housing that has been indicated. Thank you, Chair.
Tricia. Okay, we have no speakers other than the agent or applicant. So Mr. Kelway, if you could turn your camera on and mute yourself, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me?
We can, yes.
Great. Well, good evening, everybody. My name's Ben Kelway from Lichfield's Planning Consultants, and as mentioned, we're the agents for this application. The officer's report and presentation has provided a very thorough assessment of the development and clearly recommends approval. So I'll keep my comments here brief. So the development before you represents the culmination of a long and inclusive design development process. We've engaged closely with officers over around 2 years on the project. And you'll have seen in the report that the design was really overhauled and the application revised in July this year in direct response to comments from officers and feedback from the County Council. So the amended development is now in close conformity with the feedback from officers in terms of height and scale, the separation from Terminus House, architecture, ground floor uses and the public realm. So really we've done everything that we've been asked to do by officers in amending the scheme. The principle of a mixed-use development of the scale, composition and character proposed here is firmly supported by the MPPF, the development plan and draft town centre area action plan. So the scheme will deliver many benefits for Harlow. Firstly, the development will replace the edge of this underused car park and a leftover area of open space, which offer very little to Harlow, with around 150 good quality new homes and employment generating floor space alongside new landscape public realm. The new homes proposed will make an important contribution to meeting local housing need in Harlow. They're mixed and balanced by size and tenure, and these are good quality homes providing a high standard of amenity and a good environment for residents. All of the homes meet or exceed national floor space standards. They'll all comply with relevant targets in terms of natural light and amenity conditions, and they all have private balconies and access to general communal amenity space and play space. And this access to open space is obviously critical at a time when access to open space is so highly valued. Alongside the new homes, the commercial accommodation and gym will create local jobs. They'll serve the local community and they'll animate the public realm. The development will contribute meaningfully to economic growth and job creation in Harlow. Again, a local benefit at a time when the economy and employment clearly need a boost. The developments of a high standard of architecture, you'll have seen in the update report from earlier today that the comments that were previously received from the County Council's Place Services team have been addressed, and there's a clear narrative and explanation as to how the scheme's architecture does take cues from the character and attributes of Harlow. This is a contextually appropriate design which references the local townscape vernacular and is firmly rooted in Harlow, but all within a contemporary 21st century design solution. And alongside the scheme's architecture, the creation of a new piece of public realm is a major local benefit, incorporating sculptures, planting and street furniture. The connection is described by officers as an important strategic link, and the public space will form an important eastern gateway into the town centre. And finally, the development will deliver significant investment in Harlow Town Centre. It'll be a benchmark for high quality design and public realm, and will hopefully act as a catalyst in the area's ongoing regeneration. So in conclusion, we're firmly of the view this is a well-conceived, high-quality development, which is the product of a lengthy and collaborative process with your officers. It offers a real opportunity to deliver a high-quality mixed-use scheme and will yield many local benefits, which weigh strongly in support of grant of planning permission.
Could you wrap up, Mr. Kelway?
I respectfully ask the committee to endorse the recommendation. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
And happy to answer any questions members may have.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a number of questions. I'm not really good at drawings, but I wonder, for example, the first bit is the noodle bar affected, the restaurant and noodle bar? How is it going to affect the taxi rank? In regard to the business units, is there parking for them? And if they have to pay for parking? And in regard to the landscaping area on the drawings, would that be available to the residents of Terminus House that haven't got any? Thank you.
Patricia.
If I understand the first question is with regard to noodle bar.
Yeah.
I'm not conversant myself with the noodle bar. Is that located within the bus station?
No.
Oh, come on.
It's in the Holiday Inn complex.
Yeah.
So it's not affected.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor. Secondly, the podium area is for residents of this development. given that there's a gap between the buildings, it's not directly accessible from Terminus House, and it hasn't been proposed to provide that as accessible to other residents. There would be 150 dwellings at this site. Clearly, Terminus House was allowed under permitted development allowances, which doesn't allow for any amenity space, and unfortunately, that doesn't mean that other developments should then provide that space for them. That's not under this consideration at the moment.
Taxi rank?
And the third one, in terms of the taxi rank, the proposal does include an access into the taxi rank area. That would require discussion with highways as to how that would be configured. That would be subject to a legal agreement under section 278 of the Highways Act. The access itself doesn't fall within the red line of this boundary, so those discussions will be held separately.
And the business units about the parking and cost to people using the business using?
It's not proposed to provide any additional parking for the commercial units within the town centre, very close to the bus station.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Garnett. You're muted, Councillor Garnett. That's better.
Top button wasn't working. Sorry about that. Patricia, in your report on page 9, you talk about electric vehicle provision and about condition in it. But again, there's no condition in the conditions. There's no conditions in the condition about providing electric points. So can we bear that in mind should this go through tonight? The other thing I was looking at, there's loads actually, but I won't go on. The open space which is provided on the podium floor, two things here. One assumes it's for the block of flats, but next door you've got Terminus House and across the road you've got the Hides. Is there any provision to restrict the use to only residents of the new block? And also, when you talked about the amenity space, you talked about divided into age use. How's that going to be policed? And the only other one I talk about is because there's lots more, but the ground floor, you're straight onto the bus depot. How are the residents and specifically children protected from wandering into the bus area where there's buses and taxis actually? Is there some form of barriers that doesn't allow them? I'll stop at that, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garnett. In terms of the condition in relation to the electric charging points, that has been picked up in the update sheet, which is with you. Proposed a condition there for the electric charging vehicle charging parking to be provided.
In the addendum, do you mean? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
It was that picked up in the addendum, did you say?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes, Councillor Garnett.
Yeah, I didn't say it. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Chair.
Secondly, in relation to the open space, it is, I've answered that question for Councillor Davis, that this is the podium level outdoor spaces provided for the block residents. There are 150 dwellings here, and it's not being provided for anybody else's use. In terms of the various aspects of the podium that are provided for age groups, those are equipped areas for small children and older children. It will be for the parents of those children to ensure that they use those, although we may be able to speak with the applicants about providing some level of separation to those if you wanted to take that forward. But in terms of policing, it will be for the adults in the scheme to have control over their children.
Councillor Holcote.
Thank you, Chair. A couple of questions. Councillor Davis referred to the taxi rank, the 3 spaces that would be lost. have the taxi rank, have they been consulted on this? And if they have, what was their reaction? And this is a high quality unit block, in which case I would prefer that the affordable housing was taken right through the block rather than put into a couple of spaces, because they have to be integrated into the block of that community, and to put them into certain sections I don't think is acceptable. I think developers have got to think about what they're mixing in and act accordingly. So everyone's in a high quality unit, so that doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing, and I think that they should actually be put in to the whole of that block. And can I be reassured that that would be the case? Thank you, Chair.
Tricia?
Yes, Chair. In terms of whether people who use the taxi rank have been consulted, there have been site notices as normal posted at the block, and anyone who wishes to can then comment on that. Licensing have commented in terms of the taxi rank that there are other proposals for relocation of taxi rank within the town centre, and those are under discussion. That would the access itself would be under sections 278 of the Highways Act, and it would be for highways to undertake any necessary consultation.
Okay.
In terms of affordable housing, I'm not sure there was an actual question, just that the pepper potting of affordable housing was limited.
So yeah, I think Councillor Hopetts' view is that the allocation is wrong and should be spread through the building, and if that's something she wants to condition, then I suggest she moves an amendment. Councillor Carter, then Councillor Hardware.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quickie. I know the officer went through the parking numbers, but I couldn't write them down fast enough. The 753 going down to about 500 or something. So, and then presumably there will be allocations for the residents. So what is the gross and net impact on the car parking spaces to the public?
My understanding, Councillor, is that there would be 545 public parking spaces provided. The consideration has been given to that by highways, and there are no highways impacts expressed as a concern in the town centre, but there would be more limited parking for the public.
Sorry, and how many spaces for the residents of the block?
Sorry, 114 spaces would be provided.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Hardware.
Thank you. I have two questions. The first one's quite straightforward, is to ask what are the uses that will be allowed for the commercial units? And the second question is the speaker talked about a 2-year process coordinating with officers over design of this project. My question is, what wider consultation have they done? Until I opened the papers at the weekend for this, knew nothing of this development, and although officers are qualified and make recommendations, it is this committee that actually makes the decision. And I really think that a few days knowledge and view of these proposals is not long enough, and that we really need to see these things weeks in advance so that we can come to a proper view of what our thoughts are. So yeah, what consultation did the applicant actually undertake?
Tricia?
If I can comment on the uses, the gym is a D1 use, which would be located on the eastern side of the site. The other uses are proposed to be flexible within A1, A3, A4 and B1. As you may be aware, those have changed slightly recently, but they are shops, restaurants and cafes, drinking establishments, and within B1, offices and light industrial and research and development. The idea of having such flexible use is that it gives the developer the opportunity to take a wider market view of how they can be used. This is on the edge of the town centre, so but however there would be high footfalls, so the market will to a degree decide on what sort of uses are more appropriate here. In terms of the wider consultation, I think that might be best answered by the applicants who are represented today.
Yeah.
Yes, would you like me to answer that? So there's a public consultation event held in early 2019 alongside the pre-application engagement process. We circulated something in the order of 1,500 leaflets locally to local residents and businesses. Ward councillors were invited to the event, which was held next door to the site at the Holiday Inn. And I think we had 18 people attended, 9 of whom provided feedback. And a project website was also set up, and that event was advertised locally. So there was public consultation. Stakeholders were invited to attend or to make comments on the website, including ward councillors. That's obviously now some time ago because the application has been with the council since July 2019.
Surely key stakeholders would have included members of the planning committee, not just the ward councillors.
I don't think members of the planning committee were invited, but ward councillors. Yeah.
Exactly, that is my point. You know, I've had a few days to look at this, and that is it. It really isn't very, you know, to me having a proper view, is it? And I'm sure there are other members of the committee who are in the same position.
Thank you, Councillor Hardware. Any other questions, members? Okay, if we move to debate then, who would like to open the debate? Councillor Souter.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little bit concerned about Harlow's, the amount of affordable homes where our guideline is 30, we're only getting 7.4. The other thing is the 106 money. There is nothing in there regarding the health. With this amount of people, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the local doctor's surgery.
Yeah. Councillor Clark.
Yes, I'm also very concerned about the lack of affordable housing. We did consider an application for 49 dwellings recently, and they managed to find 30%, actually 30% of affordable housing and a considerable amount of contribution for community uses. As Clive has mentioned, the pressures are going to be extensive on local infrastructure, both education and health. And none of this has had any contribution other than a very small amount. This is 150 dwellings, and they can only manage a very small amount of affordable housing. I think consider that it's overdeveloped, it's very high density. There's a loss of parking, both public and also internal, and a loss of the taxi rank. All the consultees have been very critical, Essex County Council, place, buildings. The design has been still criticised, even though there was extensive consultation apparently, but nevertheless they've all been critical. And I really feel that on a number of grounds this is not adequate. We should reject it.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Hardware.
Yeah, I mean, I quite agree with what Jean says. It goes on actually from the point I've just made, in that this committee is required to make a decision on this, and we're not getting enough advanced warning and notification time to review what proposals are, and B, we're not getting enough information at the committee on things such as viability. As Jean said, we had one a couple of weeks ago, which was not a million miles away from this one. It was only for 49 properties. It's a similar kind of site, not as complex, but they're providing a full list of Section 106 and 30%. This one comes forward with just 7 point whatever percent affordable homes, and we have got no way of checking the validity, viability of that view. I mean, to say that it's been assessed by an independent assessor, but we've not seen it. And I do think we do not have enough information on the viability to be able to make a decision today.
Thank you, Councillor Hardware. Councillor Garnett.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I don't try and avoid repeating what's gone on, because I think we've all got points of view on this, and most of them overlap. Councillor Hardware's covered the viability, and I'm 100% with him on that. You know, why is it one month we can agree a project which conforms to everything in 106 monies, and then this one is 3 times the size, or 3 times the size, and for some reason it can't provide a penny. It's grudgingly given us a few affordable housing. So, you know, one does have to look and say, well, why is there so much difference? We haven't got everything we need. Electric charging points that's missing. I am concerned about the amenity area. You know, Terminus House has a what should I say? It's renowned for certain criminal usage of certain substances, and this is ideal. Nice little place upstairs. Go and sit up there, but there's no. I don't know whether there's going to be any cameras or whether there's going to be any gates that will keep people out. Otherwise, it's going to be a free-for-all, and the residents will be stuck with it. Parking is a problem, but it is a town centre location, so I'm trying to avoid that one. I'm going to go through what I've marked here, but I talked about the buses, the safety of the children coming out of the block of flats and straight into buses. I don't think Patricia actually answered my question as to what barriers there are to avoid children getting in front of the buses and getting to the other side of the town, because at the end of the day, they've got to get from the blocks of flats to the town centre if that's what they want to do. I do join issue on this thing about evening what they call it. I can't remember what they call it. You know, it's evening, viability. What about daytime? You know, it's not all about drinking in pubs and bars, and restaurants. That's got a use, and there's a lot of them in Ireland. So what about retail use as well? Although it is set a little bit away. We dealt with the habitable rooms. Working hours. We haven't got any
no working hours.
Sorry?
No working hours, you're right.
So I'll just say, no condition on working hours. And the Heights is just across the road, and you've got the college, university across the road as well as the people who are at the bus stop waiting for buses. I think probably I'll leave it at that. Other people will probably fill up put the other pieces of jigsaw. So at the moment, I'm struggling to be able to say I could agree this with a conscience that it is a good development. In some respects, it is, but overall, I think I'd err on the side that it's not a good development. It is overdevelopment a bit in that sort of area, but how we get round it, I don't know. Perhaps we can. I don't like deferrals, but if we can get further information, get all our other ducks in order, we might be able to make some decisions. At the moment, there seems to be 2 or 3 additional conditions we need to put in it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Garnett. Councillor Davis.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm just looking at the summary of representations received, and a lot of them I'm concerned about. Overdevelopment, high density, and an eyesore as far as the design is concerned. Low amount of affordable housing, we've already followed that through. I'm concerned about the in and out of Terminus Street car park, and so on Belize Avenue. I'm concerned about people walking across to get across the Belize Avenue to the college. 7% of affordable housing is not really good. Design, I said I really don't like. Parking is, I think we've still got an issue there. And I prefer actually to defer this so we can talk better to the developer, because I don't think this is very good at the moment.
Councillor Holcote.
Thank you, Chair. I've got to agree with what the councillors have all said, because if you look at Essex on page 5, recommended that Harlow District Council ensure submitted viability assessment is sufficiently scrutinised. We haven't done that as a committee. So I think that's one of the major things we've got to do. I think we need to defer it. The other thing that I raised earlier that I'm concerned about is the the higher rent quality units, but the affordable housing section is not interspersed within the whole structure, and I don't think that's right. So I want that one looked at again, and we need to go. This is quite a long report. And we need to look at it more thoroughly with the questions that have already been raised, and bring it back when we're happy. When I first looked at this, I was wondering how on earth they were going to fit it in, but of course they're taking part of the car park away. The taxi rank as well. If you have to take car parking away, disregarding what that's part of that building is, you're trying to squeeze in another structure, even though there's a gap between that and the Holiday Inn. And the Holiday Inn aren't happy with it. And I think we need more information on this so we can really do it justice and go forward on the decision making we're going to do. At the moment, we haven't got that. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Carter, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. In order to assist my colleagues, can I formally move that we defer a decision on this pending a review of the affordability aspect and any other issues that we will have time to find with a longer period to look at it all. And also a second condition that the usual hours of working construction, Monday to Friday and Saturday mornings, is added as well. If somebody would like to second that, I should be grateful.
Councillor Carter, before anybody seconds it, I think it'd be useful that before we move to a deferral, because I do feel that's the way the committee is moving, that we outline the issues that we want reviewed as part of the referral.
I'll let colleagues do that. But if I can comment on the application, I mean, in principle, having a high-rise building next to Terminus House and whatever sounds reasonably sensible in planning terms. It sort of creates a formal barrier or border to the town centre and everywhere else. But in design terms, when you have to rely on the appearance of Terminus House to give you design terms, I think you're onto a loser before you start. Every single member of the committee is appalled at the public contribution coming from this application. The committee saw an application last month which saw 30% and a full Section 106. On this application, there is marginally more than sweet FA, to politely. There's no Section 106. There's only 7% affordable housing, and I'm afraid this is totally unacceptable. Now, unfortunately, given the current legislation, we can't turn it down on those grounds. But we are none of us approves of this. None of us likes this application, and hopefully, if we can agree to defer a decision, the applicant can go away and do his sums again and come up with something approaching a reasonable offer to the community.
Okay. Look, while I note Councillor Carter's comments, obviously we need to be balanced on the decision that we take once it finally comes before us. But, you know, while I note the concerns around viability, if the viability exists, then it exists. I think the question we need to check is, does it exist? But, you know, that's one portion which members have discussed. Okay, so there are other issues and we need to identify those so that officers can go and work on those issues which aren't to do with viability, because that's a piece of its own and it's linked with the viability assessment. You know, does it stack up or doesn't it? Who wants to start? Councillor Garnett.
Chair. Well, you know, as I said, you know, there are a number of conditions which should be put on it. Working hours, the electric charging points, whether these, if we could have some answers over the open space, whether it's going to be protected from people from other areas, the safety, whether the bus, you know, safety of getting across the site is sufficient. So, you know, there's those things. So the viability is the big thing, but not, you know, and that covers your health, you know, the schooling and all those sort of things, which are important. You know, we complain about Terminus House and the residents of Terminus House, excuse the expression, been dumped in Harlow, and then Harlow has to pay for it. There's not a great difference between what the developer is doing. He's building the flats and then say, okay, you can pay for health, you can pay for school. There's very affordable housing, and we'll go walk away with whatever we walk away with. But the other thing I wanted to ask is this clawback situation. I know we've done it in the past. Has there anything been constructed where we've had a clawback situation arising and we've got money out of it? Because I've got a feeling it's just one of those red herrings. It sounds all very good, but 5 years down the line, we've got no extra money.
No.
You know, these are things.
Questions at the moment, Councillor Garnett. We've been past that stage. Councillor Danvers.
I need to sound like an echo chamber. Sorry, Chair. I just endorse everything that other people have said.
Okay, so the one thing I do think also needs exploring is the access to the college. So there is currently an access under the road, as well as the access across the road. It does concern me that this development doesn't address those accesses and make sure that they are going to be safe for the thousands of students who need to access the college on a daily basis.
Sorry, Chair, including during the construction process as well.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Councillor Holcoop.
Thank you, Chair. And the dispersal of the affordable housing within the whole unit.
Yes.
Because we've got to stop that being done by the...
I'd agree. Okay. Yep. So I think we're clear on the reasons that we might be looking to defer. We've obviously had that move formally. Is that seconded by somebody? Councillor Hardware, I think you put your hand up first. All those in favour? I believe that is unanimous. Okay, so that is deferred. Thank you, Mr. Kelway. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, should you wish to. If you wanted to leave, you're also welcome to do that. Okay, moving down the agenda. I open my iPad up. Agenda item 8, Garden Terrace Road, which is being presented by Nicholas.
Yes, it's number 7, actually.
No, it's not.
My agenda paper.
Agenda
item 8.
Agenda 8, yes.
It's 7 Garden Terrace Road, but it's agenda item 8.
Yes. This application is to convert the existing launderette to a daycare nursery. And Alex, if you could move on to the next page, please. The application site is circled in red, roughly in the middle of the plan. It's within a mixed-use area. There are residential dwellings to the north and to the east, which are the Winston Mills and Cherry Blossom Close. To the south of the site, on the other side of Garden Terrace Road, is an existing Old Harlow Healthcare Centre. And to the west, there is a takeaway and the existing nursery. And the current application is to use the now vacant building as an extension to the existing operation of the nursery to the side. And Alex, if you can move on to the next page, please. This is the front of the building, and as you can see, is predominantly occupied by overgrown vegetations due to years of basically no management to the vegetation. And to the right-hand side of this photograph, you can see the existing dwellings on Cherry Blossom Road, Cherry Blossom Close, sorry. And at the background, you can also see the existing takeaway. Next page, please. This is on Garden Terrace Road. To the left-hand side is the application site, and to the right-hand side is the Old Harlow Healthcare Centre. And you might also see in the background, sorry, Alex. You might also see in the background there is a public parking area, roughly on the right-hand side. Next page, please, Alex. This is the side and the rear of the building. There is an informal and non-restricted parking area to the rear. Next page, please, Alex. Yeah, this is the parking area, and as you can see on the left-hand side is the existing daycare center, and in the background are some residential units surrounding the site. Next page, please, Alex. This is looking from the parking area, and you can see the application site on the left-hand side and the existing nursery in the background. And to the right-hand side is Windons Mills residential development. And if you can move on to the next page, please. This is the existing layout, and the next page will show you the proposed layout. And at the bottom of the screen is Garden Terrace Road, and the applicant is proposing an outdoor area, which is annotated as garden area, to the front of the application site. And if you can remember from the earlier photographs, the application site, the frontage is mostly occupied by vegetation, and it wouldn't come as a surprise that those will be removed. We have consulted our landscape architect, and she don't consider these vegetation are of any specific value, and it's not worthy of a tree preservation order. There will also be a high fence in front of the garden area to prevent children from running out of the site. This will become the main feature on Garden Terrace Road, although details of the fence has not been provided. And we consider the existing situation, and it would be reasonable to impose a condition to request some greeneries to be planted on the outside of the fence to retain some of the existing character of the site. Okay, we can move on to the next page, please, Alex. Existing elevation, and the next page is the proposed elevations. And there won't be any major changes apart from replacing the windows and some of the panels, which are reasonable for the age of this building. Next page, please, Alex. This page shows you the rear parking area and the nearby residential area. According to the applicant, these parking spaces are unallocated and informal parking space. Some of them, we understand, are used by the residents to the rear, but as I've just mentioned, this is informal use of the spaces, and it won't be a reason to refuse the application. And the applicant also provide a parking survey of the parking situation of the surrounding area, which access highway looked at it and consider the conclusion of the parking survey is acceptable, and it won't be a reason to refuse the current application. And if we move on to the next slide, we can also see there is a public parking area roughly to the bottom right-hand corner of this photograph. And because the application site is also located very close to the Old Harlow High Street and Station Road, there are several bus routes to serve the local area. This is considered to be a sustainable location. And although the application site itself does not come with any parking provision, we consider this is acceptable in this instant. And you can also see Cherry Blossom Close to the immediate east of the application site. Because the application relates mostly to internal works and the change of use, there wouldn't be any privacy or overbearing loss of light issues. So the main consideration in terms of neighbor amenity will be coming from the noise generated by the new use. There is a new outdoor play area to the front of the application site, but given the nature of the use, these disturbances are considered to be daytime disturbances, and the application also indicate the operation hour would be from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is quite reasonable for a childcare nursery as well. And we also give weight to the fact that it will be used as an extension to the existing childcare center. We consider on balance, the neighbor amenity will be acceptable, and it's not a reason to refuse the application.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any questions, members? Oh, sorry, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Somewhere I've got a list of speakers.
Oh.
Okay, so we have 4 written statements. So you want to start with Zoe Jacob, please.
Thank you, Chair. It is disappointing to read that the expansion of an excellent childcare provision is being delayed / blocked due to the local residents opposing about where they park their car. As a working parent, it is essential to have improving childcare provisions, and the fact that the Home from Home is expanding further to support with wraparound care for 3 to 11-year-olds is a testament to them. I hope that the Council acknowledges that Home from Home is an independent business which supports the local community and is wanting to invest in Old Harlow and redevelop the Launderette into a building that nurtures and cares for future generations. With the large increase of new homes in the surrounding area, this nursery extension is a crucial provision for all new families who move to the area. I've been unable to obtain formal proof in time as to whether some owners have any formal right to the road area in question, as it isn't obvious at the site. I am, however, surprised at some of the objecting parties supporting evidence for parking problems, as the majority of the vehicles they show in the pictures look like they belong to residents themselves, as the nursery clearly display their work advert on the side of their vehicles. They seem to have selectively ignored the work vans that park on the pavement. The recent parking changes by the council in this area actually means, as a parent dropping or picking up, there is always somewhere safe and easy to drop off that doesn't impact the cul-de-sac area of Garden Terrace at all now. I don't foresee the potential increase in children taken on by Home from Home to massively impact the area with cars, as they offer an hourly provision for parents and we are able to come and go at hours to suit ourselves, thus not resulting in high volumes of parents dropping or collecting at the same time or in the same way you would witness at a school gate, for example. I can only conclude with my support of the regeneration of the Launderette building, to that turn it into a place for children to be safe and to learn is of massive benefit to parents of the Old Harlow area. I suggest that residents who say they have formal rights to parking spaces in Garden Terrace, if true, make completely clear where they are with special markings to prevent parking spaces being used and avoid future confusion. That way there'll be no need to abuse nursery staff with children in the street anymore over where they can park. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do you want to do Mrs. Hussein's statement next?
Okay. This application is primarily for the change of business use of premises from a laundry business to a child daycare unit. I am the freehold owner and have run my laundry business from these premises for the past 33 years. Now at the age of 79 years and due to current conditions, I am unable to continue serving the local community. There is an existing child daycare business adjacent to my launderette, and the proposed use would be as an extension to the current premises, also adding some enclosed outdoor space for the children. Both our businesses have always provided a drop-off and collection point. In order to address local concerns over additional parking, a parking beat survey was undertaken and was subsequently approved by the highways authorities that they have no objections to the proposal. The building itself is currently in disrepair with overgrown shrubs outside, planted originally by myself and late husband. This will all be addressed with the recommendations implied by local heritage and in keeping with the character of the existing surroundings. I strongly believe my neighbour of 10 years, Linda Reynolds, with an already established child daycare business would both enhance the current location and also benefit the local community from the use of my now redundant building. Thank you, Chair.
Alicia Jones.
I've been using the Anurian Bevan Centre in Old Harlow since 2009 when I had my first child. This is when Harlow Council opened it up as a children's centre. These family services had a massive impact on the local community and all families using it. These services were designed to support families and children's learning skills, their health and well-being, social and emotional development. It was somewhere where families could meet and spend quality time with their preschool-aged children in a safe and non-judgmental way. Having midwives and health visitors all provided a great community service to this building. Then, when the Children's Centre closed down, this left a massive hole in the community of these services. Linda Reynolds, who used to also use the Children's Centre herself, as she was a local childminder living in this area, using all these great services on offer, Linda could see for herself not only the benefit to the children, but also to the local community using these services. Linda then took over the building as a childcare service, offering a complete level of childcare for working parents or those parents who just needed a couple of sessions a week. This offered a lifeline to parents like me in need of excellent childcare services. I myself have 5 children ranging in ages from 11 years old down to my youngest who is 2 years old, who will be starting at home from home childcarers in January 2021. I can confirm that these childcare services have been fundamental not only in my own family's requirements, but for all the other families who are currently able to access them. Linda and her colleagues have been providing an excellent range of service, not only for the daycare service, but also for the whole package of all childcare services on offer for local families. These essential services on offer are obviously limited due to the space such as breakfast club, after school club, and also our school holiday club due to the current size of the Anurian Bevan building. Being able to extend these services with the use of this empty launderette would not only benefit the children using these buildings, but also have a massive impact on so many more local families who would then be able to use these services on offer. Please help Home from Home to help improve the quality of childcare in our local community with giving them more space to use. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And then lastly, the agent, Luke Wilkes.
I am representing my client who wishes to expand an already successful nursery setting in Garden Terrace Road and open the redundant launderette to be able to provide extra childcare places for the local community. There are many supporting comments from existing parents who fully support the application and would like to see this application granted. My client has applied for Section 106 funds to increase the number of childcare places in the local community, and this was granted before lockdown, as there is a high demand in the local area for childcare places, and with the building of all the new homes in and around Old Harlow, this demand is only going to increase. My client has been in the childcare for 15 years and is an extremely ambitious local business person who wants to provide extra childcare places for her existing customers and for any new parents that are seeking childcare. The setting is currently full every day of the week and has a waiting list for places for September 2021, which proves the point that there is a need for further childcare places in the area. The setting received a good Ofsted rating at its last inspection and is working hard to try and receive an outstanding Ofsted rating at the next one. It is a family-run business that employs several teams of mother, daughter, son workers, and this has helped to make it the success it currently is. It runs flexible sessions for parents and looks after all the children, parents, and staff well-being at the same time as providing excellent childcare. If planning permission is granted, the adapted Launderette building will become a dedicated preschool for the children aged 3 to 4 and will include a fully enclosed outside area that the children will be able to access all year round. It will be fully inclusive and include ramped access to children and parents. My client is conscious of the few objections which have been made by local residents from Binsdon Mews and is happy to speak with any resident who has concerns to try and work through issues with them personally. 7 staff members from the current childcare setting have now purchased resident car parking permits and are parking in the nearby car park during working hours to try and reduce the number of cars outside the premises. And the setting has asked parents to be mindful of neighbours and children when dropping off or collecting their children from the setting. We would really appreciate planning permission being granted so that work can start on the launderette and provide the extra childcare spaces that are so desperately needed in the local community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Questions, members? No, none. Debate then?
Agreed.
Go on it.
Valuable community facility, and parking has been resolved in a variety of ways.
Councillor Garnett.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. As a local council, I know this area very well. It almost looks like a turf war, doesn't it, BB, between Binsdon Mews trying to use public places because they're somewhat restricted, that they are allocated 1 or 2 spaces in Binsdon Mews, so they overflow. But there is a public car park. There's a free first hour. Call our Harlow car parks. I think they're all of them anyway. So I don't know why the mums don't use that. It's nice. I think everybody wants to drop them outside, but you know, this is an asset to the community there, and I think you tidy up that area, which is looking a bit downbeat the last few years because of the age of they have some very, very nice peach tree there though, so it's nice to go. I shall miss that, but yeah, I'm in favour, so thank you very much.
Anybody else want to debate on this? In that case, let's move to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimously carried. So moving back to the agenda paper, number 12, Brickcroft Hopetts, agenda item 10, which I hate it when this happens.
It's 9, isn't it?
It'd be number 9.
9.
9.
9, Chair.
Number 9.
Old Road. Old
Patricia.
London Road.
Agenda item 9.
Yeah.
Doctor's orders.
I was jumping ahead.
Sorry, unmute. Thank you, Chair. The proposal is for a delay in the implementation of a bus gate, which has previously been approved, from an earlier to a later stage. The change would result in a minor change to the number of units that can be implemented on site, from 713, I think it is, to 949. I shall check those figures. I do apologise. It should have been in the proposal, so I do apologise for that. In terms of the overall process, the bus gate is needed to aid in traffic congestion, and will be particularly needed in respect of the junction 7A provision on the M11. The idea of the bus gate is to push traffic from the B183 Gildon Way onto the A414 rather than coming down in the northern section of London Road. We just look at the at the location plan. The location plan actually stretches from the B183 at the northern end at the roundabout, past the junction with the enterprise zones, and also into Newhall, and down to the junction to the south, and then onto Church Langley. I do apologise. The junction arrangement has already been put in place. This is close to, if everyone knows, the new co-op building is within that marketplace area. So that's already happened. And the proposal, if we can go on to, I do apologise, I've jumped forward to Alex. So that's the junction that has already been put into place. Certainly the crossover onto the link road, which is Newhall Way to the west of that side. Go on to the next slide, Alex. This shows all of the traffic calming measures and also the bus gate, which is shown in the middle of that side. That is to the north of the junction. So, as I say, between where the co-op is now located and the junction to the north with the B183. The proposal is to only have bus access in that section. It won't affect the rest of the area to the south. This is purely for that section of London Road. So on the next slide, Alex, you can see it's the red area. It doesn't cover the whole of the area to the south. And the photographs just show the road. Next slide, please. This is looking north towards Mark Hall Academy on the western side of the road. This junction has been improved with the cushion table as shown in the plans, and that's the link that is now named Newhall Way. Again, just a view looking slightly from the south up towards where the bus gate will be, where the cars are. That's effectively where the bus gate would start, and it extends further north from there. This is just looking to the junction with Kennel Lane, which won't be affected per se by the proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Patricia. Before we move to questions, could I just clarify with you, we received a large number of objections to this, but they were all talking about whether the bus gate should be there or not, which obviously isn't part of this application. Is that correct?
That is correct. The scheme for a bus gate has already been approved. It links to the phase 2 of the Newhall development, and as such, the proposed changes to a condition that relates to the number of units within the Newhall application phase 2. So there was a slight delay in doing that. That is supported by the transport assessment that suggests that a later point would still provide sufficient capacity on the roads.
Thank you. Okay. We have one speaker on this, which is Elizabeth Fitzgerald, who is the agent. Elizabeth, you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Councillor Waite. Good evening, councillors. Thank you for letting me speak to you this evening. Some of you will recall the consideration of this access and bus gate proposal in 2017. The bus gate is required to ensure that traffic movements along London Road onto the Gilden Way roundabout do not conflict with traffic movements along Gilden Way once the new M11 junction is opened. Should we proceed with the development under the terms of the existing permission, the bus gate will need to be installed by spring next year at the latest. This application enables that to be delayed by approximately 12 months and brings its delivery more in line with the opening of Junction 7A. We do appreciate the concerns raised by local residents in respect to the proposed bus gate. However, the principle of that bus gate has been established, This application only seeks to delay that delivery a little further to enable it to be more in line with the M11 works, whilst not having any detrimental impact on the highway capacity. On this basis, we welcome the officer's report and hope that you will be able to support us in this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Questions, members? Anybody got any? Councillor Carter.
Thank you. They're not questions, they're sort of comments about the bus gate itself rather than the application. So I thought I'd get rid of those first of all. I was a bit concerned when the officer said that the bus gate won't affect traffic to the south of New Hall Way. The majority of people using London Road actually come from Church Langley, my ward, which is to the south of New Hall and New Hall Way. The bus gate is well, according to the plans, the bus gate is just a single edifice. It's just a bar across the road with a release button for buses and I think probably taxis and cycles. With regard to the comments from the applicant's agent, the traffic surveys being used by Essex Highways do not take into account the impact of Markwell School moving its car park and dropping off point round into London Road, which has generated a whole new raft of traffic, which will need to go onto the B183, and which far exceeds whatever comes along London Road at the moment. But so let's just park that and move on to the application.
Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I remember having this debate some time ago about.
Are we doing questions or debate at the moment? Because I'm a bit confused.
Well, the thing is, I understand the agent said at the time, at the last application, is that they wouldn't build any more houses unless they got this bus gate installed. Is that still the truth?
Patricia? Well, obviously not, because they're suggesting to push it back. So.
Yeah, the suggestion, and I do apologise for not having numbers up front. The suggestion is that there is sufficient capacity, or at least capacity has been set out in the transport assessment, that there's now more capacity than was originally considered using estimates, because they can now use actual figures, because a number of the sections of New Hall have now been developed. The original that's proposed to be changed is from 767 units to 917, and that's of the 2,300 that have been approved as part of New Hall phase 2.
And I think the other issue which the agent explained is that it's also got to do with the traffic flows as a result of the M11 junction, which has taken longer to build than was originally expected. Any other questions?
No.
Debate then. Councillor Garnett.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I think, as you said at the outset, the only question we're looking at is whether we delay it or not. And I think if we delay it, then that must go towards Councillor Carter's conjecture that he doesn't want it at all. But at least delays it for another 6 months, 12 months. So that's all we're looking at tonight. So I don't know why we're arguing about whether it should be or should not be there in the first place.
Yeah, let's be clear. The principle of it being there is not up for debate.
No.
Had already been approved by this committee.
Yeah.
In that case, Councillor Carter.
Thank you. Yeah, just to emphasise, the principle of the bus gate has been established, so there is an argument about that. I'm not entirely convinced that all those people who wrote in were actually opposed to the application either. They were concerned, as we've established, about the principle of the bus gate. All this does is give us a bit longer to marshal our arguments and lobby Essex Highways about the stupidity of their scheme.
And I think, just to be really clear, the driver here is Essex County Council Highways, and if there is to be a revision, it needs to come from the Highway Department at Essex County Council. That's why we're lobbying Essex Highways. Yes, absolutely. But we have we have an agreement. The bus gate is required. So shall we move to a vote?
Yeah.
All those in favour of the recommendations on page 52, recommendations 1 to 3 and the informative. That is unanimously agreed. Okay. Elizabeth, if you wanted to stay, you're welcome. If not, you're welcome to go. Thank you. We'll now move to Brickcroft Hopetts and John, if you'd like to present that one.
Thank you. One point I need to make clear before we start, there is no reason being given for the second condition, and there should be. That would be for the avoidance of doubt. So if you're accepting the recommendation, that would be part of the recommendation. Can we have the next slide, please, Alex? Can we have the next slide, please? Right. This is the application site marked in the square. It's a detached house with a double garage alongside the smaller square, and the applicants have put a terrace onto that, onto the roof of that garage. This is a retrospective application, therefore. And the question is this acceptable in appearance, and what's the effects on the neighbours? Can we have the next slide, please? This is an aerial photo of it. It's the property in the northeast quadrant of the junction of Honor Street and Brickcroft Hopetts, and that's the garage which Alex is pointing out at the moment. Can I have the next slide, please? These are the existing plans, straightforward, just an ordinary, well, when I say existing, before the development was carried out in breach of planning control. I don't know the circumstances of that, but that shouldn't influence your decision. And can we have the next slide, please, Alex? And this shows what is there now. There's a sort of balustrade round the roof. There is a link to the house, but there's no door into the house, although I think if one was inserted, I don't think it would be a significant problem. And there are steps up between the house and the garage. Next slide, please. This is the front view of it. It's between two houses, so not particularly prominent in the street scene, but anyway, we consider it acceptable in appearance terms. And next slide, please. This is the view to the north from the terrace. Our concern, or one of our concerns, is there's quite significant overlooking of the house to the immediate north. There's a fence across the middle of the photo. That's a garden beyond that fence. There's lesser overlooking of 10 Brickcroft Hopetts to the right. There could be overlooking to the property behind if those trees beyond number 10 shed were removed. That's difficult to assess at this stage because of the trees. Now, the objection comes from the house whose garden is beyond the trees, and yet we've had letters of support from both immediate neighbours. So it's a slightly unusual situation that the immediate neighbours support it and somebody further away doesn't. There's also a potential issue of overlooking windows, but the windows at the objector's house we consider are far enough away for that not to be to justify a refusal of permission or anything like that. But because of the overlooking of the garden to the north, we think that a screen should be put along the northern boundary, and we're proposing a condition to that effect. Although the present occupiers of the house aren't concerned to have a screen, in future different people will occupy the property, or we think it's reasonable to protect their privacy. The other concern is possible noise from the terrace, but as I explained in the report, we can all use our gardens any day of the daylight, or sorry, can we go back a minute, Alex? Anytime, day or night, play music and things. Now, most people are reasonable and don't upset their neighbours. You know, maybe they have the odd party once or twice a year or something like that, but you know, they normally you perhaps tell your neighbours if you're doing that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it's not usual to put planning controls on the use of a garden. This is effectively a raised up garden, and whilst members could impose a condition, say it shouldn't be used after a certain time of night because it is immediately next door to the neighbours' bedrooms, or music shouldn't be played after a certain time, we don't think that's really necessary, but we do think a screen is justified. We'd be looking for a good quality screen, such as obscure glass one. And now, can we have the next slide, please, Alex? And this is a view to the south for houses across the road. I perhaps should explain that you might think there's more windows in the house at angle to the right of the picture. There are not. I can assure you that. That's at an angle so that there's not too bad overlooking in any way. The neighbours all seem to have lace curtains or blinds in the windows, and they haven't objected. And there's overlooking from the front windows of number 12, those windows to a degree anyway. The house to the left is sufficiently far away, and the relationship is such that, again, we don't think overlooking from there is too bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any questions? Oh, sorry, wait a minute. We have a written statement from the applicant.
Thank you, Chair.
Anna?
The objector states the terrace is a major invasion of privacy. They say the terrace allows the occupants to view parts of their property that couldn't have previously been seen before. This is not the case, as our bedroom windows have a closer view of the rear of the houses on Simplicity Lane than what the terrace does. The objector states that we can see directly into their bedroom, bathroom, kitchen and garden, which has caused them undue stress. We would like to inform them that this is not the case and that we have better things to do than to look into their property, and by them saying this, we feel that this is a defamation of our character. The objector states there is a continuous late night drinking, shouting and music coming from our terrace, which I vehemently refute. If this was the case, our next door neighbours, one of whom has small children, would not be in support of the terrace. The objector states the roof structure has not been built for the purpose of holding so much weight and for maintenance purposes only. Unless the objector is an architect or a structural engineer, they should not comment on the build, as this structure has been designed by architectural and structural engineering design, which can be seen in the construction of build plans. There has been a number of properties in and around Brickcroft Hopetts which have had work done to change the view of the existing property, including a sun terrace that has been constructed in Great August Street, above a garage that overlooks the gardens of the rear of Simplicity Lane. We believe the design of our terrace enhances the look of the garage roof and complements the neighbourhood, and we have had many compliments from people walking by. These houses were mainly built for people working from home, and we believe the terrace adds use to an invaluable space. Regarding the twinkling lights, which are actually solar powered, is this really an issue? Regarding the recommendation of the 1.8 metre high screen, could this possibly be less, as by adding 1.8 metres onto the terraced wall would be in total of 2.1 metres, as we have a 300mm parapet wall that the balustrade is fixed to. Also, adverse weather conditions such as the wind would continuously damage the high screen, as well as cast a shadow over our low garden, meaning we would lose the little sunlight we already get, hence why we built the terrace. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hannah. Any questions, members? Councillor Garnett?
John, can we go back to the photograph from the top of the roof space? It's probably the only one you've got there. Please. That one there. So the looking at the next door garden, are they the objectors, or as you're saying, the one behind the tree on the right hand side?
It's the one behind the tree.
Okay.
They're the objectors. The people with that house and garden, and indeed the one you can see a bit of their garden and their shed on the right, they have both written letters of support.
So the barrier or fence we're talking about putting up, is that the one we're looking at now?
What we're suggesting is a barrier to stop, sort of more or less where the photographer is standing, to stop overlooking of the, I think it's 25 Honor Street, their garden. Perhaps a point to clarify, I was thinking 1.8 metres as judged from the roof level of the garage, not on top of their balustrade. That would be unnecessarily tall. And perhaps we could amend the conditions slightly to make that clear.
Sorry, John, I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm not sure, because there's a fence there at the moment, which looks high. How high is that fence then? I can't see any balustrades.
No, and that's a fence at ground level, an ordinary fence between two neighbours. As I say, what you see this side of the fence is their garden with the L-shaped table. And if you look just along the bottom of the picture, there's a sort of grey-brown line. That's the edge of the garage.
So what we're looking at, sorry, John. So what we're looking at is actually a downstairs garden.
Yes.
Yes.
No, we've got no views from the top of the garage.
That is the top of the garage.
This was taken.
I mean, looking at where they are.
Yes, correct.
This was taken by a colleague from the garage roof to show the overlooking effect.
Okay, if you go back to photograph 6, is that what we're talking about? That fence there?
No, we're talking
That's
about
the front
making
one,
it
isn't it?
1.8 metres tall.
Yeah, that one's the one that's got to go up.
Yes.
No, this is a retrospective application. This is what they've done at the moment, and there's a similar fence around the other two sides of the garage, 10 Hobbits Way.
But the plan is to make those bigger.
Yeah.
The plan is to make the one at the back bigger.
The one at the back. The trouble is, because, John, you're not giving us pictures, it's difficult to visualise it. We've got nothing at all. So it's the other side of this one looking over the back.
Yeah, the opposite side, yes.
Yeah. So, I've had a problem before in Old Harlow with the same sort of overlooking. No, 1.8 is fine, yeah. Obscure.
Okay. Right, any more questions? Councillor Clark, question?
Can I ask if the applicant is happy about this screen?
Well, from their letter, they are not happy, but our view is we think we should have that condition, but it is open to you as members to decide whether you want that condition or not.
I think the key question is not about what it looks like now and what the current neighbours might think. I think we need to protect future neighbours, don't we? Councillor Davis.
Yeah, from the pictures, they showed a fence there. It seemed to be a wooden fence that was going, I suppose it's west, I don't know, or east, no. That seemed to be fine with me. Why have we got to raise that?
So I think there's some confusion. So can I help clarify members' minds? The picture you saw of a garden is at floor level. All right, so you've got the house's garden, then you've got a fence, and then you've got the next door garden. The picture was taken from the top of the roof. It didn't include any image of the top of the roof, if that helps. So we're talking about putting a fence on the top of that roof so that from the top of the roof, you couldn't see over the other fence into the next door garden. Does that make sense?
Well explained.
Yeah?
I think it's okay as it is.
Okay. Well, anyway, any other questions? No? Debate. Councillor Garnett.
We'll just come back on now, just because Bob, those pictures we're looking, they're on the ground floor, so we're now looking to put a glass partition so they can't see over that area, and so therefore I think the proposal 1.8 obscure glazing to me is a must. And as the chair said, it's protecting it for the future as well. The fact he's already put a balustrade up is not our problem. He's done that without planning permission. He's now retrospectively asking, and we're just saying, to be true, we need that protection for the neighbour. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, in that case, if we could move to a vote, if there's no more debate. Recommendations 1 and 2 as amended by the supplementary agenda, which is on page 19 of the supplementary and pages 60 and 61 of your main paper. All those in favour? And against? Abstention? Okay, that is carried with a majority and 1 abstention. Okay, thank you all. Moving back to the agenda paper, the last one of the evening, Sangeeta, if you could present 16 Kingsmoor Road, please. Sangeeta, are you there? You're muted, Sangeeta. You're talking to yourself. Thank you.
Oh, sorry about that. Can I be heard now?
You can, yes.
This is a household application. The proposal is to build a first floor extension on an existing rear single-story extension. So the existing extension is to the rear of the property, and that's where the first floor extension will go. They have also included to replace an existing flat roof, which forms part of the front elevation, with a pitched roof, which will match the rest of the main house. That shows the slide shows you the site in red. And if we can go to the next one, thank you, Alex. The layout of these dwellings is a bit peculiar in the sense that number 16 is very much projecting towards Kingsmoor Road. Both the dwellings on either side are laid out such that the rear of the application site and its rear extension match nearly with their front elevations. So that is the amount of stagger that exists within these adjoining dwellings. This is the existing ground floor where they are indicating the kitchen and living room. That is where the proposed first floor would go. The front part of the house is already a 2-story dwelling. So that shows you the extension of the sorry, this is the proposed ground floor. You will be able to see that there's no difference between the existing and the proposed ground floor in terms of a footprint as such. Now that's the existing first floor. To the front, they already have a first floor, and there is a flat roof to the rear. That is where the proposed first floor would be going. So that would make the proposed first floor with the existing and the rear extension. Can we look at the next one? Hi. This is what the proposed front elevation would look like. The pitched roof, which you can see to the right side on the first floor, is the new roof that would be going on the otherwise flat roof section in this view. And that is the rear elevation. Those 3 windows would be newly proposed, and the patio door on the ground floor. That gives you a total picture of the rear elevation, and the pitched roof, which I said would replace the existing flat roof, is on the left of this slide. That is the north side elevation. The door on the ground already exists. It's just that they are widening a normal door into a patio door. It would look out into a 1.8 meter high existing closed boarded fencing. So that does not adversely affect any neighbor's amenity. The first floor windows would be obscure glazed, and we are conditioning them to be obscure glazed and non-opening below a certain level within the decision. A similar condition for these 2 windows as well. Other than that, the proposal does not really raise any issues in terms of neighbor amenities. The pitched roof, which you're seeing, is lower than the main roof, which you can see in the background. So when it is viewed from the front, the proposal gives a subservient image of addition to the main house. That is what the existing elevation is, and the flat roof on the right side would be replaced with a pitched roof. And the same here, this is the existing rear elevation. The flat roof would go, and the new first floor extension would project to the front of this side. That's the view of the existing house from Kingsmoor Road. That picture shows you the relation with the neighbor on the south. These are 2 dwellings. The single story extension, which you see in the back, yes, that in itself is number 17. The 2-story is number 18. These are 2 dwellings in there. This is just to show you the relationship between the 2 houses. You will realize that it is so behind the number 17 and 18 that the extension which would be built on this one would not really affect them. This is a view of the existing house from the rear. So the proposal was infill on the, the proposal would infill onto the flat roof that we are seeing at the moment. So that is number 15, which also is very much to the rear of the existing house. And this side of the existing house is completely blank. So any sort of shadowing would be going into the forecourt of number 15 only. That is the front elevation the final product would give us from the street, which will be subservient to the main dwelling. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, we have a number of speakers on this. So the first one is Holly Du Bois, who is speaking against this. And Holly, are you on? Yes, you are. Would you like to unmute yourself? And you'll have 3 minutes, Holly.
Okay, thank you very much. Evening, councillors, and thank you very much for having me this evening. I am objecting to this proposal. I live in the smaller dwelling, the flat roof number 17. And as you can see from the photos, my house is directly next door to where they are proposing to extend. So my objection is on the scale of their extension. I think building a 2-storey extension on top of an existing extension is excessive. It will block out any natural light that is coming in through my living room window, and it will block out the light that comes into my front door, because my front door is on this side of the house, so it would block out any light to that. On top of that, I do believe it would block out the privacy, although I know that the windows would be shaded. Should they open the windows, they would look directly into my living room. So not only would it block out the light, but it'd also block out my privacy. On top of that, what worries me more is the building works itself. As you could see, the cladding goes up the side of my drive, and access to do the works would block me from access to my front door. And also the ability to park on my drive. And then on top of that, as everyone is working remotely, I do still have a full-time job. I am working from home until the foreseeable future, probably about a year's time. And whilst I am working here, the building works will be less than 1 metre or 2 metres away. I need to work from home at the moment. I put in my application that I am a carer and the granddaughter of Mrs. Sheila Robinson, who is the owner of number 18. So I live in this property in order to go back and forth to care for her. So if the works were to go ahead, I wouldn't be able to park on my drive. I would have constant noise, lack of privacy, lack of light. And then on top of that, I'd probably have to go into the office because I couldn't work here whilst the work was going on, which then puts a detrimental effect to my 94-year-old grandmother. The other bit I'm slightly worried about is the health and safety. The more that the construction work goes on, it wouldn't just block my access to my property, but also the oil tanker that's at the back. And if that was the case, I don't think a fire engine could get to it sufficiently, which they could at the moment. Lastly, mostly about COVID and working from home. It is causing undue stress to me. It is causing undue stress to my 94-year-old grandmother. And whilst we're very open to home improvements and definitely don't, disregard someone for making home improvements to the property, what they are proposing is excessive and have not been in consultation with us, whereas we probably could have come to more of a reasonable outlook on what they were proposing. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Right, we also have a written statement submitted by Sheila Robinson. If you could read that out, Hannah.
Thank you, Chair. As I am the owner of 18 Kingsmoor Road, I am informing you of my opposition to certain factors mentioned. My concern is 2 windows going into the side of the cladding on my drive. If this is done, I will immediately lose my privacy, as they will look directly onto my drive, the front of my house, and even into the lounge of 17 Kingsmoor Road and my own lounge. As I am 94 years old in a few weeks and housebound, this freedom is important to me. The other factor is if the extension goes up, it will cut out a lot of light and once again privacy to number 17 Kingsmoor Road. My granddaughter lives in number 17 and has already filled in her reservations to this, which you should have. She is also my carer, but due to the conditions at the moment has to work from home and I would be lost without her help. She also has my full permission to speak on my behalf should it be required. I hope you will consider these facts carefully, as when the new owners sell, I have to live with what they have left behind and remain. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, members, any questions? Councillor Hardware.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the drawings, this seems a very large extension. Do we have a kind of view on what percentage increase of roof space this is?
Sangeeta.
Sorry, I have not worked out that percentage. It was not required by policy, I'm afraid.
So what is the policy, if there is one?
sorry, there isn't a policy which states that we would allow certain amount of roof space on a householder application for an extension.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Davis, did you have your hand up?
No, I didn't, but I would like to speak.
Okay.
I'd like to know if there's what
Question,
what's the situation in regard to the light? Is there any loss of light to the other houses, the little house and the big house?
The layout of these 3 dwellings, or 4 dwellings for that matter. So the number 16 is the application site. Number 15 is to the north, and number 17 and number 18 are to the south of the site. So any extension to the application site would not block any light to number 17 and 18 because they are to the south side of the site. Because of the layout, number 15 is located much behind, nearly matching the rear elevation of the application site, and therefore the first floor addition, if at all, like whatever shadow it would cast, would be within the forecourt of number 15, and that is the reason it would not affect any neighbors' daylight.
Councillor Danvers.
Sorry, I'm unclear. The objectors said that the developers would actually use the objector's drive. I didn't understand that at all. I wonder if you'd permit the objector to clarify that point.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chair. Just come in there. Chair?
I'll just get some clarity from Holly and then I'll bring you in, Councillor Carter. That's okay?
Yes, thank you for having me back. The white cladding that they're doing and the proposed 2-story extension, I don't believe that they can access that without putting scaffolding on our boundary lines. So the actual line of where they're going up is actually on the boundary lines. They would have to access my drive in order to do so. And just going back to the part about natural light, your drawings don't include the fact that my front door is there. And if it goes up, I lose any light in the evening.
But they would have no right to. They would have no right to do that.
So Councillor Danvers, you're absolutely right, but we're not here to
no,
work.
No, sorry, no. I didn't understand. I understand the point now.
It would clearly be an issue. How would they do it?
Point now, yes.
But that's not relevant to planning, unfortunately. Just so that Holly understands that, we're not here to work out how they manage to do it. We're just here to decide whether, if and when it's done, it's compliant. Councillor Carter.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just looking at the number 16 on Google Earth Street View, and the flank wall, the south wall, is actually on the boundary line. And I know you said construction is not an issue for us, but I do wonder how the applicant intends to actually do anything along that wall, whilst remaining in their own property. I mean, presumably there is a building condition we can put in to prevent them from doing that, because as the complainant has just said, that flank wall is actually on the boundary, and the only way of getting to it is on the drive.
If I can clarify, there's nothing we can do about it, but it'll be dealt with under building control. Clearly, there's no way that the developer can put stuff up on land that they don't own. But that's not for us to decide. So as we've explained in previous planning committees, anybody can bring in a planning application, even for land that they don't own. And we are duty bound to assess that application on its merits. Whether it can be built or not isn't a matter that needs to concern us, because it's not dealt with by this committee, but by other legislation. Councillor Holcoop.
Sorry, Chair, that was going to be my question as well. So that has been answered by you, building control. Thank you.
Councillor Garnett. Turned your camera off rather than turn your mic.
I'm on there. So really just to, you're exactly right there, because then as soon as they step foot on Holly's land, it's trespass. So Holly, you don't need to worry about that. They can't do it. But as the chair says, we're only concerned with regard to the application, how they do the application. They may not be able to do it. So just to go, Sangeeta, you haven't. Are you going to add that condition about the obscure glazing?
I just checked the report and it actually is on the report. So I do not understand why the question was raised. It's on number 71 of the report. Condition.
Yeah, it's in there on page 70, but it's not. Have you put? It's not a condition, though, is it? We need it as a condition. It has to be.
Condition 3, Councillor, if that's helpful.
Have I missed it?
Yes.
I have. I do apologise.
That's okay.
My apologies.
You can turn your camera back on as well if you want.
Whose camera? Oh, where's that gone?
Right. Oh dear. Members, could I move suspension of standing orders to extend the meeting by 10 minutes? Is that agreed?
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. Any other questions? No? Debate. Councillor Hardware.
Sorry to be negative on this. Looking at the plan, this house sits forward of the what could be considered the building line. It is quite a substantial house as it is. Looking at what is proposed, it is more than doubling the side elevation of the house. It will be a great hunk of a house sticking out from the housing line. It is completely out of character. It is too big. It is overdevelopment, and I cannot support it.
Thank you, Councillor Hardware. Anybody else? Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Chair. I have to say the actual design is a marked improvement on what's there at the moment. So both the front and rear of the buildings are very messy and untidy and not really suitable for that kind of property. So what's being proposed is an improvement. It's not increasing the footprint of the building. So there are no particular objections from that point of view. It's just how they intend to work on that flank wall, but that's not our problem.
No, it's not. Anybody else? Okay. In that case, if we could move to a vote, the recommendations on pages 70 and 71 of your agenda, 1 to 4, and informatives 1 and 2. All of those in favour? It's 4 in favour. All those against? Abstentions? We have a tied vote, in which case I will vote in favour, and that is therefore carried. Okay, in that case, let's move on. That is the end of the agenda. So if we could move to reference from other committees, there are none. Matters of urgent business, there are none. Therefore, thank you all for your attendance and close this meeting at 9:34. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody.